market, and welcome to Shift+F1, a podcast about speedy race cars. That, by the way, is what you say in Singlish, a Creole they speak in Singapore, when you want someone to maintain the status quo and not raise the bar, thus making it hard for you and others to compete. When Piastri got mad on the radio this weekend, McLaren may have well responded, "Don't spoil market." I'm Drew Scanlon. Joining me is Rob Zachney. How are you, Rob?
Not bad. Not as angry as some Piastri partisans, I think.
Danny O'Dwyer is on assignment this weekend, or this week, but he'll be back soon, I think. If you are new to this podcast, though, a very warm welcome to you. And if you are new to Formula One itself, we recommend listening to our preseason primer episode, which assumes no prior F1 knowledge and explains how the sport works and who everybody is. So if you'd like to go back and listen to that, it's episode 298. Also, this show would not be possible without our audience over at patreon.com/shiftf1, where every month we release ad-free versions of the podcast early, along with bonus podcasts and videos that are exclusively for our patrons that cover racing documentaries and films, F1 video games, experiments with other racing series, and a lot of weird things. So if you would like to support the show and get access to all that fun stuff, head over to patreon.com/shiftf1 or click the link in the show notes. Access to exclusive pods, Rob, like Torque. Our review
what
of
can we
Torque.
Say? An unheralded masterpiece.
It was a lot of fun talking about that with you guys. And I've been thinking about it. It's one of those that just
it stays with you.
Yeah. We, I think, are going to do a scary car movie this month. I put together a list here. I've not run this by you yet, Rob. But we have a list here of 7 different movies. I figured, I think what we do sometimes when we do a Patreon poll is we just like say the name of the movie and not really explain what it is, and so that when people go and vote, they're not really sure what they're voting for. So I had the idea of just like posting or pasting the name of the movie into IMDb here and reading the log line.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna go in chronological order here for scary car movies. The Hitchhiker. There is a hyphen between Hitch and Hiker. This is the 1953 version. 2 friends pick up a psychopathic escaped convict who tells them that he intends to murder them when the ride is over. The tagline in the poster is, "Who will be his next victim? You?" Starring...
That's a pitch.
That's good. Eben O'Brien, Frank Lovejoy, William Tallman, directed by Ida Lupino. A lady director in 1953. Interesting. Okay. Next up, Killdozer. This, I believe, is a made-for-TV movie directed by Jerry London, starring Clint Walker, Robert Ulrich, and Carl Betz. A small construction crew on an island is terrorized when a spirit-like being takes over a large bulldozer and goes on a killing rampage. Sounds pretty good.
Hey, that's 2 bangers so far.
Yes. The Car from 1977. This we had originally had on the sort of so bad it's good list, like Torque, but I think people were saying this might actually be kind of a cult classic. So this is...
Torque was too.
That's true. Very true. Starring James Brolin, Kathleen Lloyd, and John Marley from 1977, directed by Elliot Silverstein. A small desert town is terrorized by a powerful, seemingly possessed car. There's a theme here. And the local sheriff may be the only one who can stop it.
Wait, what year is it?
1977.
What year did Jaws come out?
Oh.
Because this feels
75.
like... Yes, so it's like Jaws with a car.
I think this is exactly Jaws with a car.
That was the pitch.
Yeah. And Josh Brolin. Next up, 1983's Christine. John Carpenter's Christine, written by Stephen King, starring Keith Gordon, John Stockwell, Alexander Paul. A nerdish boy buys a strange car with an evil mind of its own, and his nature starts to change to reflect it. This is a John Carpenter I've never seen, so this might be one of my votes here.
Yeah, it's on Criterion Channel this month as well.
Oh, fantastic.
They're doing it, I think it's a Carpenter month.
Sticking with the Stephen King theme, though, here's one directed by Stephen King. 3 years later, Maximum Overdrive, starring Emilio Estevez, Pat Hingle, and Laura Harrington. A group of people try to survive when machines start to come alive and become homicidal. Listen, Stephen King, he's got a lane.
Yeah.
You know, he's got an idea. From the same year, 1986, The Wraith, directed by Mike Marvin, starring Charlie Sheen, Nick Cassavetes, and Sherilyn Fenn. In a small town in Arizona, a mysterious man/spirit descends from the sky and manifests in a sports car and targets a local violent road racing gang of motorheads headed by a ruthless bully who will do anything to get what he wants.
There's so much happening in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that is a little cluttered. I would love to nutshell it a little more. But I suppose you got to deal with the fact that it's a spirit coming down from the sky and he's going to fight a bad gang, I guess. Okay.
And he's a car? Yeah.
Also, we got Estevez and Charlie Sheen.
That's right.
In this list. We're collecting them. We're collect them all.
That's right. And finally, 2001's Joyride. 3 young people on a road trip from Colorado to New Jersey talk to a trucker on their CB radio, then must escape when he turns out to be a psychopathic killer. This sounds like sort of a dual remake. Directed by John Dahl, starring Steve Zahn and Paul Walker and Lily Sobieski.
What?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So we will post those for our patrons to vote on this week. And, oh my gosh, written by J.J. Abrams. Interesting. And then we'll see. And then we'll watch the spooky car movie of the month. Thanks to our patrons, including those patrons that signed up for the title sponsor tier, such as E. Ching Wells, parentheses Philip, My Neck, My Back, My Crack, Dr. V, The Chicken Finger Pita, Happy Anniversary Ace, Matt and Harmony, Deange, It's a Me Ferrario, Cryptocurrency, Mojo Nixon Gaming F1, Get Rich or Die Ryan, Agave ATX, Cyphus Training, Turf SCS, Michael Maves, Mission Winnow, TelemetryDeck.com, FTC, Tracy Syntax, Drew Stewart, Bailey Foot, Sport Washing, Abraham Getchell, Bunny Money, Snigs, Alex Goucher, Max Voltar Keyboards, Jeff Foster, Troy Stammer, William Rumpf, Lachlan the Madden Man, Samurai Love Story, and Jason Kelly. Thank you to all of our beautiful title sponsors. But now, let us get on to the Singapore Grand Prix. And here's the grid, Rob, for Singapore, such as it was. A surprise in qualifying, George Russell grabbing pole position, beating Lando Norris's previous track record with a 1:29.158. Second place, Max Verstappen continuing to not ever get a pole position at this track. Very surprising. He does line up second, however. Was somewhat frustrated in qualifying by Norris ahead of him, causing, in Verstappen's opinion, dirty air, which led to him aborting his second fast lap. He'll be starting on soft tires to most of the top 10's mediums. Oscar Piastri starts third, ahead of Kimi Antonelli, then Lando Norris in fifth. Lewis Hamilton starts sixth, his first time qualifying outside of the top 5 in Singapore in his career. Ferrari sort of tripping over themselves in practice. They got fined for releasing Leclerc into Norris in the pit lane, and then Hamilton narrowly escaping a penalty in free practice 3 for high speed under a red flag. It was deemed to be within limits, though. In seventh, Charles Leclerc, ahead of Isaac Hadjar, also starting on soft tires. Oliver Behrman in ninth, his career best start And I believe the third time he's gotten to Q3, but one of those times previously this season he was dinged and for some penalty and kicked out. Fernando Alonso starts 10th. He will also be starting on the soft tires. Then we've got Hülkenberg, Lawson, Tsunoda in 13th starting on softs. I thought he might have been penalized for a yellow flag infringement in Q1 after Gasly stopped off track with an issue. But apparently, though his lap time did improve enough to get him out of Q1, he did lift for the yellow. So he escaped a penalty. 14th place is Gabriel Bortoleto ahead of Lance Stroll, Franco Colapinto. Esteban Ocon in 17th had a problem with his seatbelt in Q1 and then got caught up in the Gasly yellow flag. So, in his words, just could not catch a break. Then we've got starting 18th, Carlos Sainz. He qualified 13th, and his teammate actually qualified one ahead of him in 12th, Alex Albon. But both were disqualified from qualifying after a part of the DRS flap on the rear wing was slightly too large. Vowels in this quote from the-race.com says, quote, "The rear wings had passed our own checks earlier in the day, but there's only one measurement that matters, and we fully accept the FIA ruling." So they will start 18th and 20th because Pierre Gasly starts 19th after his car stopped in Q1. His and Albon's cars were both modified from qualifying and therefore need to start from the pit lane. So, Rob, do you have start notes? If not, I can take the start.
Let me see here. I think mostly I had details about the first lap incident. I can take us through like some of these notes. Basically, the left hand side of the grid was the dirty side of the grid, so that's going to account for a lot of the first corner action here at the start. Russell got away clean, and that's the last we're going to talk about him for the race.
Yep.
He leads easily into the first corner and is never seriously threatened for the rest of the race. The real drama is that Norris gets a quick start and forces the car up alongside Piastri and almost into the back of Max, and he actually appears to he taps Max, and then fishtales and squeezes Piastri to the outside of the corner, almost into the wall. And then he takes another stab at Max going left, down the inside of the exit, and that completely balks Piastri for that corner, and he loses the position to Norris. Leclerc is right on Piastri's case after that, and Piastri has to spend some time fending him off. And then we have Hadjar overtaking Alonso during this first lap, the first time in this race that they will run across each other, and apparently the moment at which the young lad began getting under Alonso's skin. That's about all my notes from the first lap. Was there anything else that was notable?
It seems like I think Behrman got hit by Hadjar and had to bail, which opened the door for Alonso to pass and challenge Hamilton. And then later in the lap, we see Hadjar get that place back. But those two will be battling a few times over the course of the race. But yeah, I think the big thing in this lap and in this race is this Piastri-Norris incident. Piastri over the radio says just after it happens, "So are we cool with Lando just barging me out of the way?" Or and then later his team responds, his engineer says, "As a team, we can see Lando has to avoid Verstappen, so we won't take any action during the race. We can review it afterwards." Piastri doesn't really take this. He says, "Mate, that's not fair. I'm sorry, that's not fair. If he has to avoid another car by crashing into his teammate, then that's a pretty," censored by Formula One management, "job of avoiding."
Crucially, stewards investigate and take no action.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. My knee jerk is like, this is absolutely, it's almost a non-incident. It's not only is it almost nothing, it's certain. If it's something, it's a turn one, lap one incident. Yeah. He clearly does not. Well, all right. I'm going to say, I'm going to do devil's advocate and then undercut my own thing at the same time. So Norris clearly doesn't bang into him on purpose. It is he loses traction in it. I think if Norris had the option, he would prefer to retain traction the whole time, but his car has a wiggle, and that's what kind of bumps him into Piastri. And then Piastri has to back out because he's going to hit the wall. However, I think Piastri could argue, well, you shouldn't have gone in that hot anyway if you couldn't have retained the grip. And you clearly showed a disregard for your teammate when we're supposed to be papaya rules, supposed to be, racing each other hard, but not crashing into each other. Rob, what did you make of this whole situation?
Well, crucially, we have very little else to talk about this race. So, and I think that does contribute to it. We are coming out of a race weekend that generated almost no interesting.
I think the race action. Had 4 news articles about this singular incident in the wake.
Yeah, and that's probably just like on one website. Like that is this is the thing to talk about. There's World Championship ramifications, and also like, this is key context. At this point of this race, all McLaren needs to do basically is bring both cars home and they win the championship. Even if they don't do that, it was pretty much a lock. Like the Constructors' Championship is sewn up. They've got like twice as many points as their nearest rival, and so it's that alone tells us that like the papaya rules thing is probably going to start to break down at some point, because like it's a lot easier to make the case throughout the first 2/3 of the season that it's important to observe these rules and race as a team and follow calls from the pit wall, because what you're trying to do is just bag as many points as possible. We don't want unnecessary drama. Once that is locked up, and now it is clear the only stakes are the Drivers' Championship, it's going to be much harder to tell these guys to be unselfish and team oriented. Now, F1 always, like, just as a community, as a punditocracy, everything around F1 has a really really intense relationship with team orders and anything that smacks of like the team pulling the strings on drivers from the pit wall. A lot of it is latent anger and frustration over a lot of things that happened during the Schumacher years. There's also sort of that gym teacher ethos sometimes that you get with F1 fans, where you should just let them fight it out on track. They should go just settle it, bare knuckle. And so there's a lot of people who I think have been eager to find cause to tee off on McLaren for the adjudication they've done throughout this year. And I have picked up on this in our inbox. I have seen a little bit of it online, and then I really saw it in the wake of this race. There is a small but increasingly vocal contingent of Piastri fans, or maybe not even fans. There's a growing number of people who, even before this incident, had started to feel like the papaya rules thing seemed to cut in favor of Lando way more often than Piastri. That Lando gets unlucky and things get screwed up, but in the end, Oscar sort of has to pay for them. Crucially with the position being handed back after the bad Norris pit stop. All that context, I think, explains some of why this gets so fraught, because fundamentally, I'm with you. It was not even that inadvisable a move. We've seen many worse attempts on lap one. Way chancier things happen in F1. I can understand completely why Piastri in particular was hot under the collar at the moment of contact, because what he can see in the car and the way it looks from his in-car camera is exactly what he describes. That Norris is just like, fuck it. This is I'm gonna do the arcade racing game thing where I use your car as kind of a bounce pad to make the corner. That's how it looks from Piastri's perspective. It's just like Norris completely screws him there, and then you see the incident from other perspectives, from Norris's position, and it's very clear this is not an intentional thing. It is Norris. Avoiding a hard collision with Max, and then skittering out to the right hand side. So the intent isn't there. It's a marginal move, but the kind of marginal move you have to attempt on lap one. But Piastri does have grounds to at least ask the team, "Hey, so is that fair under Papaya rules?" And I think it is. I think the team has broadly tried to let them go racing, but part of that is don't hit your teammate. And there was contact. Now it's not the hardest contact. What I think it was kind of understood is that what we don't want is these guys taking each other out. Mm-hmm. But if we're going to be to the letter of things, this is the kind of shit that the Papaya rules are set up to avoid happening, and the team didn't intervene to clean this up. Now, I also think it is one of those things where if the stewards had intervened and said it was it wasn't a good overtake, then that's also that. We don't know what McLaren would have done in that situation, but I assume they would have just lived by that ruling, and Norris gives the place back, and that is that. But I do think it would have been, it's even harder to intervene from McLaren's side when you now have the stewards basically looking at the same incident and going like, that's fine. Very loaded if Zach Brown and Andrea Stella then look at the same incident and say, no, we can't allow that. That begins to feel like you're screwing one of your drivers over too. So this has been coming. I think there's going to be a moment where markers are going to have to be put down. There's going to have to be a bit of a breach, in this cooperative relationship. And I think we arrived there. But as for the incident itself, I don't think there's a whole lot there. I think it's really entirely about what it's going to signal for the remainder of the championship and the bind McLaren is going to find itself in, as this championship gets a little closer and the focus moves entirely to the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah, and I think that picture changes a little bit with how this race concludes for these two. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with the rest of the Singapore Grand Prix. Before we get to that, the rest of the Singapore Grand Prix, I did want to update. I had some old information here about patron names. There's been some updates. Patrons love to update their name in this list. We got some good ones here. EA Bonesaw Simulator 2K26.
Beautiful.
Good stuff. Cigarettes for moderate to severe plaque psoriasis.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, that's what they were prescribing back in.
Yep.
Yeah. And finally, Feel Better, Mina.
Aw. She is.
Good.
She's making... I don't. I feel worse.
All right. Well, speaking of Norris and Piastri, lap 26, Norris is told that McLaren would like to pit Piastri first to cover Leclerc. But since he is on track ahead of Piastri, McLaren asks him if he would rather pit first, and he says yes. This is 7 laps after Verstappen, who had to start, or had to come in earlier because he started on the more pliable, soft tires. Also around this time, poor Hadjar gets told that he's got an engine issue, which is losing him 0.4 a lap. He's not happy about this. And we get a good move from Behrman on Alex Albon, who Behrman dives from way back to the inside of turn 16 for 13th place. Piastri comes in to the pits on lap 28, has a slow stop here, just kind of rubbing salt in the wound. 5.2 seconds, but he still comes out in fourth ahead of Leclerc. Alonso also pits on this lap and also has a bad stop, a 9.2 second stop coming out behind who else but Isaac Hadjar.
Quick thing. Mm-hmm. I just couldn't help but have the thought when Piastri had the slow stop that if there ever a time that McLaren would really love someone to have a slow stop, it was now.
Why do you say that?
Just keep them separate. Like, just
you got to keep them separated.
Yes, exactly. Just, oh no, we can't. Oh, you're so close. Oh man, you really would have been challenging there at the end of the race, but for that slow stop, oh well, no. just hold position.
Yeah,
I'm sure that is not what happened. I'm sure, but
no.
It is nevertheless one of those things where. And obviously the position is very different, but when this happened to Norris, it was like we have to do something to fix it because that did result in a position swap. Here, it just kind of forecloses the possibility that Piastri can catch up. And yeah, ain't much we can do about that.
Yeah, Verstappen also not having a great race. He's been complaining about his car over the radio. And on lap 36, we see him lock up and barely keep it out of the wall at turn 14. Pretty uncharacteristic move, but yeah, if his car is struggling. Red Bull's car has traditionally not been great at this track, and it seems that Verstappen was not happy with it this weekend. And now on lap 37, the best battle of the race between an Aston Martin and a racing bull with an engine problem. So maybe that's illustrative of the rest of this race. This is Alonso and Hadjar. They trade places for a good chunk of the lap. Hadjar defending mightily until Alonso puts the hammer down after turn 3, fishtailing all over the place, and gets by into turn 5 for 13th place. Alonso comes over the radio and says, "Trophy for the hero of race." Probably meaning Hadjar, but it's funnier if you interpret it as meaning himself.
Either way, I think what we can guarantee is that he was delighted by Hadjar's spirit. He loved the pure racing action and thought it was awesome. That is, I think that's what we can take away from that. Yeah,
certainly not just an old man yelling at a cloud.
Fuck this kid. Yeah.
Lap 43. There is a good scrap here between way in the back between the Saubers and the Alpines. Carbon fiber flying everywhere after Hülkenberg gets his front wing clipped. We've also got a Williams in this race going both cars way long on their tires for both of their drivers from the back of the grid, hoping for a cheap safety car pit stop, which they don't end up getting. Albon, though, has a huge lockup on his old tires defending from Alonso and cannot hold on to the place. He does pit soon after that. Sainz, though, stays out for another 8 laps, coming in on lap 51 of 62, starting on those medium tires. Hülkenberg has a spin on lap 45, and he claims that it was because Colapinto braked way early, which I think is something that the F1 commentators called out immediately. This causes Hülkenberg to slam on his brakes and spin off into a runoff area, rejoining in last place.
Rejoining awesomely, though.
Yeah.
Just kind of a cool, like, slamming it back in gear and just peeling out. I was like, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Looked dangerous as hell, but obviously it wasn't.
Yeah. No, there's no one coming around the corner. And as we enter the later stages of the race, we do have a few chases going on.
So I was going to raise this point with you.
Yeah.
Do you feel like more stuff started to happen toward the end of the race and we just didn't see it?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think the whoever was calling the shots in the booth got lulled into a stupor and just did not either recognize what was going on or didn't care. Norris is closing on Verstappen and has probably his best look on lap 53. But then we kind of stick with that, I think. And in the the rest of the field, Antonelli's been chasing Leclerc and is getting very, very close. Lap 54, while we don't see it on the broadcast, you can see it in the YouTube highlights, which I will post in the show notes. Antonelli has a dive up the inside of Leclerc on turn 16, like Behrman on Albon, and gets the place. It is a great move, just like it was for Behrman. And we don't see it. We also don't see Alonso chasing down Hamilton. So Hamilton is reporting a problem with his brakes. Hamilton pitted a second time around lap 46 because he had such a huge gap to the car behind. But I think developed brake issues after that. Alonso then manages to close a more than 30-second gap and finishes 0.4 behind Hamilton. It is really, really close and would have been exciting to watch him reel him in, but we also don't see that. However, in trying to manage a car with basically no brakes, Hamilton cut a whole lot of corners and after the race was handed a 5-second penalty, dropping him from 7th to 8th and promoting Alonso. I would have thought that, and I think Hamilton did say to the press something to the effect of like, listen, I was managing a brake issue. I couldn't take some of the corners. However, the penalty was not contested by Hamilton or Ferrari because I think what happens is you cut 3 corners. Those are track limits violations. You get then waived a black and white flag for those 3. And if you do one more, that's when you get a 5-second penalty. So he cut at least 4 and was handed to 5 seconds.
I mean, it seems I wish we had seen this because Hamilton nursing a car that basically has to like lift and coast for most of the lap as he's just sort of like whipping it around corners, like kind of barely being able to brake. Awesome, sounds great. I do think as cool as that is, if he's cutting corners because of this issue, like he's gonna have to collect that. Like it's not Alonso didn't have the option of cutting the corners either. Like I think ultimately it may have been fair if Hamilton's allowed to choose his own racing line, but the course is there for a reason. I think the reason the penalty is only 5 seconds is probably because everyone understands why he had to do it. But yeah, it seems pretty open and shut.
Yeah, I also think that like maybe they didn't contest it because sure, he could have kept it on the track, but then he would have been going way slower and would have lost the place to Alonso. Yep. So
yep, exactly.
All right, well, here's the result of the Singapore Grand Prix. George Russell hangs on to first place and wins the Singapore Grand Prix. Max Verstappen comes home second, continuing his streak of no poles or wins at Singapore. Lando Norris rounds out the podium in third, and Oscar Piastri in fourth. McLaren sealing the Constructors' Championship. We have a news story about that we'll get to in a second. Kimi Antonelli in fifth. We didn't, again, see his overtake of Leclerc, but it was good. Leclerc in sixth. Seventh is Fernando Alonso. And in eighth, we have Lewis Hamilton after his 5-second penalty. Then we've got Oliver Behrman finishing ninth to get a couple points for Haas. And Carlos Sainz, with that going long pit strategy, comes home 10th, giving a point to Williams from 18th place. Technically the back of the grid, because the other two were pit lane starts. Isaac Hadjar 11th, followed by Yuki Tsunoda, Lance Stroll, Alex Albon, Liam Lawson 15th, Colapinto, Bortoleto, Ocon, Gasly, and Hulkenberg. And that is your Singapore Grand Prix. A Singapore Grand Prix, Rob, that was the first to be labeled a heat hazard by the FIA. This means that teams are mandated to fit driver cooling systems to their cars, which comes in the form of a cooling vest and all the a pump to circulate cold water through that vest as the drivers are in the cars. This season, the drivers can opt to not wear the vest, but the car still has to carry ballast in the equivalent weight. Verstappen opted out this time, saying that the vest was uncomfortable. Others pointed out that the cooling doesn't last currently for the entire race. Leclerc says in this quote from the race, "In some scenarios where the ice is gone, you have no cold water coming into your vest, but you do have hot water coming into your vest, and it's not a nice feeling." As it stands, next year, drivers won't be able to opt out if the race is declared a heat hazard. But it sounds like the likes of Verstappen are angling to keep it voluntary.
So this was interesting because, like, I kind of thought they would have a better plan for cooling vests by this point. Like the fact that it kind of just seems like the water circulation eventually it's just like, well, the same issues we have right now. The same reason you can't keep like drinks cool for the drivers in the car because like there's nowhere for the heat to go. There's no insulation for like a cool space in the car. So I'm kind of, it seems very, very corporate, very F1 to be like, and to deal with this problem, we're going to mandate cooling vests. The cooling vests may just circulate engine temperature water back toward the driver, but at least we can say we had it, and you have to wear it. That is this like without some changes. Maybe they got way more options for the 2026 car because everything else is being redesigned. But I haven't heard much discussion of like how they're going to fix this problem. But like it is the ultimate expression of let's say we're doing something and say we're like taking care of this workplace safety issue, but like, are we? Is it maybe even more hazardous by some lights? Like literally circulating warm water back over the drivers as they're trying to cool off. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, one could imagine a system that did indeed work, but was bulkier. Right, and then you're talking about like more significant car changes. So they're really, I think, trying to toe a line here. There are drivers that like it. Carlos Sainz said something like, "Yeah, I'll wear it at Singapore. If you don't, it's a performance advantage. If you think that you don't need it and you get hot and I pass you, then that's how it goes. That's great." Asterisk, basically, he was like, "But I have no problem with Singapore." I've never had an issue here. George Russell is a fan, and critically, he is the head of the Grand Prix Drivers Association, which is the body that I think would have the most leverage against the FIA in this situation. So, do I think that he's just going to steamroll through this thing? I don't. It's not. That wouldn't be a good leader of the GPDA.
But my boy gets hot. Like this is like I think he got heat stroke at this race last year. Like this is, or it was one of them where after the race, his partner had to really quick like wave down the medics.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, because he was like crashing out with heat exhaustion, and like at the end of this race, he didn't look good. Like he looked like he was about to throw up on Verstappen's race boots at the like. As they sort of lined the three drivers up to do the talk, which is kind of a weird and not functional change to the session interview format. But yeah, like he looked gray, man. He does not do well with this heat, and that's some drivers are going to deal with it well, and some can't. But I mean, the other part of this, and this ties to one of my news stories for this week, but one of the things the FIA sort of stated here is that like, we need to solve this problem because we're going to be having heat hazard races. We're going to be racing in play. We can't be saying like we can't have the session because it's too hot. Like that's not workable. So the cars are going to have to run.
We have to race.
Especially we have to race in hot fucking places.
Yeah,
that are like
have to race in Qatar.
Deeply inhospitable to athletic endeavor.
What are we going to do? Like not race in Qatar? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
who could skip Qatar. And so like Domenicali this week is on this like incredible run of interview statements where basically he is all but telling you that if you're a long-term F1 fan, he just wants you to fucking leave. Just shut the fuck up. Stop talking about like good tracks. Stop talking about how the sport used to be. Just die. Okay? Do you have a TikTok? Do you have a TikTok that eats shit? Stefano wants you gone. He wants you gone, and take your fucking European sports cathedrals with you. Shove the Monza trophy straight up your ass, because F1 has a new rubric. So he gives the statement as he's explaining why F1 is going to continue to lean into new venues, and historic venues are going to have to work harder to justify themselves. He says, obviously, if a Grand Prix has this historical value, it's a plus, but it's not enough. So it's an element that adds history, and it's important for someone like me who has followed Formula One since childhood. But for the new fans who follow Formula One, this may sound strange, but if you look, and we have this data because it's fundamental for us, the ability to turn the page, to scroll through news, to forget who won last year is very high. So for many young fans today, racing in Monte Carlo compared with the new Las Vegas circuit makes no difference. So history is not a fundamental element for us, but just to give you the idea, history must be supported by a structure that looks to the future and allows investment in infrastructure to improve, since tickets are not exactly cheap, to provide services to fans at all levels, and to allow countries to be financially present in a calendar that I think won't grow beyond the number of races we have today. So in so many words, we're only getting, 24 races appears to be the hard limit for what F1 can sustain. We want to grab all the money that can be on the table. And so we're going to go where that is. And that tends not to be in places where F1 has historically raced. And again, crucially, it's going to be a lot of petro states. It's going to be a lot of hot countries where it's going to be a challenging environment from the standpoint of, especially in time of climate change. Like you can have bad heat waves anywhere, but you're definitely courting them with places like Singapore, with places like Qatar. But the other part of this, we're going back to this notion that F1, because it has metrics from its, presumably, its apps, its social media channels, like it's doing market research, because they have data from this, they're convinced they understand the new fan and what the new fan wants. And Domenicali, it's kind of something at every level. On the one hand, he's like, old people care about classic tracks, but they're stupid and they're old. We don't care about them. But also, it's like, kids today, they just can't remember anything. They look at their little TikTok and a new TikTok appears, and they can't, their little brains, their little phone-addled brains can't compute that something happened. That they don't have object permanence. Basically, Domenicali is like, the new F1 fan has lost a sense of object permanence, and so just exists in a vibes state of F1 highlights, and that's what we're building the sport around. Like, some of this I think is probably very cynical just to justify some changes he wants to force through. That he wants to just go get that promotional money, and he wants to say it's about building toward the future and reaching new audiences, but really it's just about, like, it pays better to race in Qatar than it does in Spa.
Yeah. The whole thing about history, really, that's what I kind of focus on here, because I'm trying to come up with an analogy, but like, if you look like American football, right? We love to see highlights. Similar. If all a football game was just a quarterback throwing 50 yards to a guy in the end zone, that's not interesting. If that's all your highlights were, if like, all right,
well,
let's just
and football tried to make the sport that. Like tried hard. Oh yeah. And also saw like a similar like diminishment of interesting games, competitive quality. Like the entire thing turned into trying to generate highlights rather than like compelling games. But that's because this attempt has been. They're not the first people to have come up with this notion that like, well, what are the highlights? What are the highlights that people want to watch? We should just build the whole plane out of the black box. We should build the entire game out of highlights.
Yes. And I think I run the risk of of repeating some talking points that, are well, okay. History matters. Traditions matter. I think for me, they matter in the sense that it grounds you in something that has gone on for a long time. And I think that is important to a sport like this. Because if you are completely unmoored from any sort of history and all you're watching is just the exciting stuff happening right now, it doesn't have any weight to it. And I think that's related to what I was trying to say about if you're just watching highlights. If the whole football game is just one guy throwing to another guy, and did he catch the ball? No? Okay, great. Then that is not a compelling sport. You're missing something. You're missing some essence. And I think that is being completely overlooked by Domenicali in these kinds of quotes.
I don't think... I think the point about like history doesn't matter is kind of asinine. Like it's like there's no way around it. I think it is a deeply insipid and incorrect point. Like, look no further than Ferrari. Ferrari hasn't had great championship results in like decades, right? They're Ferrari. They matter. Another, I guess to put it in terms that Domenicali would understand, history equals brand. That's what it is. Like, history is what creates the sense of identity, for meaning behind like the symbols of your sport, the symbols of your property. And one of the reasons that sports endure is because new waves of fans join up and get inculcated in existing fandom and history. Yes. That part of why they stick around isn't for the fucking highlights. They attach themselves to something greater than themselves.
To a story.
Yeah, it was going before them. It came after. Football gets this. College football especially gets this, right? Like, Notre Dame is not it's still a powerhouse program, but like it's not like it was in the 90s like Lou Holtz. It's not like a predominant football program. They've struggled to sort of keep pace with a lot of other schools, but they matter because they're Notre Dame, and like there's symbolism there that hasn't changed in a century. There's iconography. They're connected to foundational building blocks of the sport, and that is something that, like, there's a reason people tune in to see Notre Dame games. There's a reason there's a reason that even if they are not like battling for a championship, Michigan, Ohio State is an important game people want to watch. Rivalries matter. So this whole notion that new fans come in and because they don't know the history has no value, that gets it backwards. New fans show up, and the ones who are going to stick around eventually start picking up the history and getting really into it. This is the foundation. I
think it's the only
of every
thing
sport.
I think that's one of the only things that will enable someone to stick around.
Yeah, and so I mean, you're kind of left with two possibilities here. Either he actually believes this, in which case you have a dumbass running. Like there's no way around it. Like, it's somebody who fundamentally may have enjoyed F1 his whole life, been around it his whole life, but has never really like introspected about sports and his relationship to it and what makes it go. He has no idea what's happening. Or this is just entirely cynical, and it is a way to say, like, the data suggests that I have to go take dictator money and leave behind these other tracks, and we'll continue like basically dangling F1 races between various promoters, like a big hunk of meat over a pit full of piranhas or something. That's kind of what he's building towards. Here's the other thing, though. I can't take that many more races like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like 24 race calendar. It feels like I'm not like no bullshit. MK and I both felt like this race like ruined our fucking Sunday. Like we were massively bored as we were watching it, and to the point where it's like, yeah, there's something very frustrating about a bad F1 race because at first you're like, all right, like let's see what is it. All right, they're just kind of following each other. It's okay. Well, maybe the pit cycle will like, well, nope. The pit cycle happens. Nothing really changes, and now you're like, well, there's nothing's happening. This race is 2 hours long. Nothing is happening. I knew we were fucked when Crofty started trying to be like, really, they don't have data on how these tires do for long runs, so they're all racing into the unknown. And I'm like, we got nothing. There's nothing going to happen in this race. He's like, well, we just didn't do long sessions, so maybe their tires will explode. That's not going to happen. But like 24 race calendar, F1 has always had a fair number of duds. But man, like some of these street circuits, when they're duds, it's like you're just watching cars go around like a gray tube. And here's the other thing. We don't need Singapore anymore. It's the least interesting night race. It was spectacular when they rolled it out with all the lighting. But at this point, Bahrain has it beat. Vegas has it beat. In terms, like, it's kind of a shitty course. And I'm sitting there being like, why are we still here? Like, this is... If a third of the races end up being these kind of like, well, they pay a lot of money, it's a destination city, so here's an F1 race, and we didn't really nail it with the track, like that's a lot of boring-ass race weekends. And F1 is in a privileged position because of that history. It has a reputation as it's the premier motorsport, the greatest motorsport in the world. And so people who are into racing are going to follow F1 because, like, if you're into racing, you kind of have to. That is what you do. And they can lean into that the same way that, like, football in the U.S. has blotted out all other sports, and it's kind of like media reinforced that by only promoting football and only talking about it. F1 might benefit from that to some extent too, because like people want to get in the business of F1 and promote it, so their F1 coverage does better, etc. So maybe consequences can never catch up with them for having kind of a bad sport, but I just don't know. Like there are a lot of race weekends where I come out of it where like, say there's sports car racing like WEC and IndyCar and F1 having the same weekend. There's a lot of those weekends where I come out of it and F1 has been like far and away the least interesting product on track. And I think that is probably that's the concern I would have is that you're building toward this vision of the sport that's very cynical, that like the past doesn't matter. We'll junk it. We'll go where the money is, throwing lackluster events that are clearly there to sell like VIP, luxury package tickets. And we don't really care if you connect with it emotionally at all. And I think that is it's a shitty trajectory for the sport as someone who's grown up loving it. I also tend to think it's probably not a good one, for the health of the sport across a few axes, but maybe F1 is recession proof, by those measures. But every time this guy opens his mouth, I feel less optimistic about the future of the sport.
Well, James Vowles might have an idea for how to make things a little more sustainable. If we're doing so many races, Vowles says in this Autosport article, I'm more someone that would like to debate whether we go to 2-day weekends, Saturday and Sunday. I just reduce the amount of free practice and make it a spectacle. But by doing that and giving back 24 days to the teams, actually you could do a few more race weekends if you wanted. So slightly different out there suggestion. But I think 6 sprints for me is about the right number. I frankly don't care where they are. I mean, I don't see a problem with this. You know, I don't watch a lot of practice. I think that it's kind of a fun notion to, okay, you get one 90-minute practice session to dial everything in, and then boom, we're into qualifying. What do you think?
I think it does make sense. I do question whether it's... Look, this is me as someone who doesn't love travel. So I think it is, there's an element of, if you're like, the race weekend is just 2 days long. Yeah, that's great. It's still the same amount of travel. It's just now there's less stuff in between the travel. It's going to be at a more hectic pace. I don't know that comes across feeling more sustainable or better, from the standpoint of people doing all the work. It feels like we're squeezing 3 days of shit into 2, is what we're talking about there. But it is one of the things we can change without necessarily extending the calendar or cutting races. So I can see why he's offering it. But that to me, the quick fire 2-day race weekend seems like it would be really disruptive and hectic for the teams, and might not have, you get 24 days back, but I do wonder about the intensity of some of the away days.
Yeah. An interesting notion. Maybe we did one trial of that. When was that? We did a 2-day race weekend.
Yeah.
It is mentioned in this, Imola. Yes, during the 2020 season. 90-minute practice session on Saturday morning, qualifying later that day, and then a Grand Prix on Sunday. So I would welcome more trials like that, just to see how it goes. All right, let me run down the championships here, and we got one more news story after that. The Drivers' Championship has narrowed once more. Oscar Piastri still on top with 336 points. Lando Norris now 22 points behind. Max Verstappen is in third, 41 points back from Norris. And then a 36-point gap to George Russell in fourth. Leclerc is 64 points back in fifth. Hamilton is 48 points back in sixth. Kimi Antonelli is 37 points back in seventh. Alex Albon is now in eighth, 18 points. He was last week. 18 points afield from Antonelli. Isaac Hadjar is 31 points back from Albon. Hadjar in ninth. Hülkenberg is in 10th, 2 points back. And Fernando Alonso jumps up 3 positions to 11th. He's now 1 point behind Hülkenberg. Carlos Sainz is in 12th, 4 points back. Tied on points with Lance Stroll in 13th. And then we've got a 2-point gap to Lawson in 14th, a 2-point gap to Ocon in 15th, an 8-point gap to Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda in 16th and 17th, respectively, and another 2-point gap between Bortoleto and Behrman in 18th and 19th. Then we've got the zeros of Colapinto and Doohan. In the Constructors' Championship, though, things are wrapped up, at least at the top. McLaren has sealed the Constructors' Championship, as we thought they might, with currently 650 points. They are now mathematically assured, no matter what they do, to win the championship. Mercedes is in second, 27 points ahead of Ferrari, who themselves are only 8 points ahead of Red Bull. That is a close battle, with now, 7 races to go? 6 or 7? Williams is in fifth, 188 points back from Red Bull, but 30 points ahead of Racing Bulls in sixth. They are only 4 points ahead of Aston Martin, who are 13 points ahead of Sauber, who are 9 points ahead of Gene Haas and team, who are 26 points ahead of Alpine in 10th. Rob, the celebration for...
So this was a bit weird. People noticed that McLaren was doing a celebration for their championship, and Piastri wasn't there. And given the other stuff we talked about, was it a shot?
He's
across
so
the bow?
mad.
Was he on the phone to Mark Webber and be like, "Mark, it's happening again"? And actually, he doesn't sound like the way Mark Webber does. But Piastri doesn't. But I could imagine like Webber like worm tonguing that kid's ear, like being like, "Don't let them do to you. Like don't believe them. Like they favor. You can tell they love Lando. They don't love you. You have to seize your moment. This is your chance. You have to drive a dagger through his heart." So, was that what was happening? No. Apparently, there wasn't supposed to be a celebration, partly because McLaren didn't want to jinx like the championship. So they basically made no plans to celebrate locking down the championship because that would have been bad energy to unleash before the race. So they made no plans. But F1, the FOM, wanted there to be something to sort of mark the occasion. So they sort of like pressed McLaren to gather up for a big pit lane celebration, like fresh off winning the championship. The problem is that everyone already had their post-race commitments, including like flights, press availability, etc. So Piastri was simply not available to go and like party with the team. I think the race did a comparison of this, or maybe it was Autosport, where once the team got back to the factory, they did the big team photo for the championship racing car. But I'm not sure it was with the factory team. I think it was just like the whole away team. But everyone who traveled with the team, huge number of people. Number of people for that stage celebration that F1 sort of pushed people toward is like a fraction of that. So I think Zach Brown had to cut out. He may have missed that entire celebration. He definitely had to cut out early because he had a flight. So there's nothing to it. It's just the celebration wasn't really McLaren's. It was F1 being like, "Hey, you should do something." And
speech.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, good to get some clarity on that. If you would like to climb up to the top of the podium yourself, you can do so in our official Shift+F1 Fantasy League, which you can join using the link in the show notes. And you could, while you might have a tricky time getting to the top of the overall podium, you could still win individual races. Like we have two people doing a tie from Singapore. In third, Camel Rothman's JPS. And the tie for first is Gunther's Paddock Gang B and Piastri on Dark Rye. That's pretty good. Overall, though, here's what the podium currently looks like. In third, The Fast of Us 2025. In second, F1 banned my team name. And in first, boy, just getting choked up about these fantasy teams. In first, Ukulele, parentheses, Indoor 8000. You can also send us an email if you like, shiftf1podcast@gmail.com or f1.cool/emails. We will be back with emails next week. You can also hit us up on the socials if you want, using the link in the show notes. And that's us around the internet. Now it is time to race around the world, Rob. We've got the World Superbike Championship in Alsabideche, Portugal, at the Autódromo Fernanda Pires da Silva for the Estoril round. The IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship is in Braselton, Georgia, at Road Atlanta for the Motul Petit Le Mans, which is just 10 hours, not 24.
Did Brazzers get naming rights to a town?
Braselton.
Oh, okay.
Braselton.
All right.
The NASCAR Xfinity Series is at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway in Las Vegas, Nevada, for the Focused Health 302. we've got Super Formula at the Fuji Speedway this weekend for the... Well, it's the Fuji round, but the Fuji Speedway stands in the foothills of Mount Fuji in Oyama, Shunto District, Shizuoka Prefecture, Japan. We've got the NHRA Texas Fall Nationals in Ennis, Texas. And we've got the Supercars at Mount Panorama in New South Wales, Australia, for the Repco Bathurst 1000. This is a heck of a race. If you are looking for weird racing, non-F1 racing to watch this weekend, the Bathurst 1000. It's a fun time. And we got NASCAR also at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway for the South Point 400. Continuing to not know what the sponsor of this is.
Oh, looks like just a resort, casino resort.
Okay. If I had to guess, that would have been my guess. All right. Well, Danny's not here, so we just don't know what happened this day in history. But history doesn't matter.
Right, Rob? Someone's dying somewhere.
That is true. Final thoughts, Rob, after the Singapore round?
A new race brings new opportunities. A new chance for racing to happen.
Yes, and boy, will there be a lot more racing in these final 6 rounds, of the season, because we've got 3 sprint rounds within those 6. Next up at the Circuit of the Americas, then in Brazil and Qatar. So we will be back next week for our pre-Austin round. Yes,
okay,
Rob?
I do have one last thing. A friend asked me, when do I think Norris and Piastri are going to take each other out? When are they going to fully, like, because it almost happened in Canada. But, like, when now is it going to be a fully, fuck it, like, their papaya rules are dead. It's now every man for himself. When do you think the first moment that they have, like, a hard collision and leave bits and pieces of orange car everywhere?
I mean, I feel like 6 races to go is a little too much margin. Like, if somebody took somebody out and collected 25 whole points for themselves, I mean, that would be a killer blow. I
also think COTA has too much runoff. I don't think it'll be COTA just because, like, it's way too easy. You steer off track. You're not forced to try to make a corner when it feels like you're about to have a big collision.
I think the hot zone is Brazil, Las Vegas, Qatar. I think those are the ones where, depending on what the numbers look like, we need to be watching pretty close.
Yeah, that is... Sorry, do they have Mexico coming up?
It's United States, Mexico.
Yes, okay. That is okay. That is my marker. It's Mexico, because they always have somebody. Now, admittedly, it's always Checo Perez. I feel like going off at that corner, but the corner's tricky, and like people hit each other at that track a lot. And so, if I had to guess for a place where like those two guys are going to be like the whole race depends on me staying ahead after the chicane, it's going to be there, and there's nowhere to go except into a car. So, like, that is I think you're right. Like, we're entering the hot zone. I don't think COTA is it, and it's too early. But this is going to happen. Like, it has to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was close this weekend, and things are only hotting up, as David Croft would say. But if you would like to support the show and get access to all of our bonus episodes, the early ad-free version of the podcast, and the official Shift F1 Discord, you can do so over at patreon.com/ShiftF1. Have a good race weekend, everyone. We will see you all next week.
Meow.